Hi, it's Jeff Henderson with another one of our series of interviews with club members who have contributed to club activities over and beyond that of what would be expected of normal membership. And today it's my pleasure to be talking to Mike Starmer. Mike, welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
You've been a member, Mike, for 43 years. I'm going to rattle off a few of your achievements here if you don't mind.
Yep, sure.
I mean, you've served on Motorboat Committee for many years,
Yep.
Also General Committee for many years, and I know you've been instrumental in the activities of the motor yacht community in NAV rallies. Would you care to just tell us a little bit about the NAV rallies? Because I'm sure there are a lot of members who aren't really aware what NAV rallies are all about.
Sure, Jeff. I can tell you a bit about NAV rallies and also log trials, and there's quite a difference. It's quite a difference because the log trials, which ran for many years, were an exercise in coastal navigation, whereas the NAV rallies these days, they're an exercise basically in using your electronics mainly. It's not really about coastal navigation, even though it's about following a preset course. And most boats nowadays have GPSs and plotters and so on, so it's appropriate that the NAV rallies have gone the way they have. And they also have the use of TAC tracker, which, as you know, is used for sailing as well, so that they're tracked electronically. So in the case of a log trial, we had to have check boats on the water and land checks on the land to spy on the competitors, whereas now TAC tracker does it. And you park an instrument at the position on your boat, and away you go.
It follows you all the way through.
Whereas with the log trials, they were similar to the extent that the log trials had a predetermined course, but what you had to do with a log trial without the electronics, they were banned for many years, as a matter of fact, and they didn't exist at all when I started. You spent hours in advance, on Friday night or whatever, before the event. You spend literally hours plotting and finding landmarks and things transits you can check on during the course of the event. And while you're at it, you try to predict where the check boats might be, and so on and so on. So it was quite different to NAV rallies.
That's good. You think there's still a room for NAV rallies within the club activities?
For sure. One other point I could have made was that the log trials were all run in conjunction with other clubs: Mordialloc Motor Yacht Club, Beaumaris Motor Yacht Squadron and Royal Vic Motor Yacht Club. The four clubs, we competed in each other's events, and each club had a signature event. I'm digressing slightly, I know, but each club had a signature event. In our case, it was the SYC Cup. And you had the Ricketts Point Regatta at Beaumaris and the Isle of Mordialloc at Mordialloc, and the Royal Vic Regatta over at Williamstown. And they were all in our club aggregate. Every one of those was in the Sandringham's aggregate. And we always used to compete in each other's events. Now, with the NAV rallies, they still do to a limited extent. Like when we run the SYC Cup here, we'll almost certainly have entries from Royal Vic, maybe Beaumaris and Mordialloc if they feel like turning up. Almost certainly Royal Vic. We've been pretty close to them.
That's good.
Over the years. So the NAV rallies are still on. Royal Vic have a full calendar of NAV rallies.
And we join in their events, obviously, and as do they in ours.
Yes.
Yeah. You've obviously been doing this for quite some while, Mike, because I note that you were made the VYC Motor Yachts Person of the Year in 2000.
That's correct. I was the last one, actually. That was before Yachting Victoria. Yeah. I was the last VYC one.
That's excellent. But not only that, Mike, you were the Boating Person of the Year here at Sandringham Yacht Club in 2007, I think with Di as well.
That was with Di because she helped organise a lot of events and did committee work as well. Yeah. I was on all of the incarnations of the Motorboat Committee from 1980 on. It went through cruising division and different names and ended up rec boating. I was on them all.
Just digressing a little bit, Mike, the nickname Knuckles, would you care to tell us where that has come from?
Peter Davies, the late Peter Davies, we were playing football with Old Halibarians. He made it up. I don't know why or how, but it came from football days.
You came the knuckle a bit, you reckon?
It came from football days from Zeke Davies, who's captain coach of the Old Halibarians.
Also, Mike Stirrer of the Year.
Yes.
Joined a great list of very honourable people in that
Marty Power's done
capacity.
it twice, though.
Has he really?
I've been trying. I've been trying to get another one. Yeah, that was an interesting exercise.
Yeah. During your long membership, I think 43 years,
Yeah.
there must be some highlights that you can recollect. Anything specific?
Yes, well, apart from the stints on General Committee, the first one, 1988, Keith Ellis was Commodore at the time, and he told me I was going on to General Committee. He got me onto his motorboat committee about 5 minutes after I joined the club, and he was a great organiser, Keith, as you know. He was a fantastic organiser. He read those log trials like you wouldn't believe. And so he told me I was going on to General Committee, and another chap on the, I better not name him, another chap on the motorboat committee at the time decided he'd force an election. So Commodore Ellis had a chat with him and he changed his mind.
He was very persuasive like that, wasn't he? Yeah, we sadly missed Keith. He passed away
too.
just recently.
Yeah.
Yes, he was
He's a great man for the club.
he certainly was. Development in the club. Surely there are any major things that stick in your mind as that over and beyond what you would expect?
Development within the club,
With building, with almost anything.
obviously the building and the marina. And the marina's the heart and soul of the club, of course. And it's a fantastic marina. You go to the other clubs and around the bay, and we're leading them by a mile. We're leading the other clubs in many aspects, including this building we're sitting in now.
Yeah.
Not only around the bay, but nationally, for sure.
Yeah.
The marina's been fantastic.
Any disappointments, Mike?
Oh, disappointments. Oh, not really, Jeff.
It augurs well for the club if there are no disappointments.
Only when I don't win things, but that's pretty often.
That goes with all of us, unfortunately. Your boats, tell us a little bit about the boats you've
Yes, when I joined, I was proposed by Gary Wood. He shared a motor sailor called Shiloh with Ron Bailey and Mike Haig. And Ron's still a member. I think he's a member, but he still lives locally. Mike's passed away, of course, but those three owned the boat. And then shortly after I joined, Gary sold out, so then it became Ron and Mike. And then shortly after that, I mean really shortly, Ron moved to Echuca, so I bought his share and subsequently shared the boat with Mike Haig for many years in log trials and club activities in general. We didn't only compete in the log trials, we officiated in many and organised several as well, with all under the direction of Keith Ellis, who was he delegated well to his committee. He had everybody working, and that's the way to do it.
And your current boat?
Current boat Malahini, I bought in 2001 from a chap in Tasmania. It had been at Sandringham Yacht Club when Glenn Williams owned it. Glenn, he trucked it down from Sydney when he bought it and parked it at Royal Vic. Then he brought it over to SYC, and then he sold it to a bloke who took it to Tassie for a year, didn't like it. So I went down with Ron White and Curly Boone, and I bought it. I bought it without seeing it. I'd been on the boat many times. I knew the boat. And Ian Gendel actually was living down there at the time, and he checked it out for me and gave me a report on it. So I went down, bought the boat with Ron White and Curly, and the three of us brought it back to Sandy in 2001.
You've told me a couple of yarns over the years about Ron White.
Is he good at yarn teller?
He's a great yarn teller, but there's one particular good yarn for you guys when you were coming back from Tassie. Perhaps you'd like to relate that for us.
Was that the one at Triabunna?
Yes.
Yes. We stopped at Triabunna to top the fuel up, even though it's not all that far from Hobart, relatively speaking. We decided to go to Triabunna on a Friday afternoon to top up the fuel. They said they couldn't give us any. In reality, they wouldn't. They said they would on Monday morning. In other words, stay the weekend at Triabunna, fellas. So first thing we do is off we go to the pub, of course, and the local fishermen there sort of look at us, give us dark looks. Who the hell is this bloody yachties or whatever? And Ron listened to them, and he heard them talking about their fishing exploits. So he said to me, I'll be back in 10 minutes, Mike, I'm just going down to the boat. He went down to the boat and came back with a photograph of him with this huge fishing cord. He bloody planned all of this. He knew this was going to happen, or come in handy, the photo. And he said to these blokes, oh, here's one I caught. Anyway, all of a sudden, we're all mates with the fishermen.
Well done,
Oh, yeah.
well done.
Try a bunner.
He surely was a character, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And it's a bit sad that we couldn't involve him in the oral history that we're creating
Yes.
with these interviews. Just one more yarn, Mike, and that's Keith Ellis once again. You were telling me only yesterday about a copy of a protest
Oh,
you
that was funny.
got from him after one of the
No,
log trial
didn't.
events.
No, I didn't get it from him. Actually, he protested the investigator, which, for those who don't know, is was an annual 3-day event, Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, around the bay. And Derek Duncan preceded Keith as what was then called race secretary motor yacht, now called club captain. Derek Duncan preceded Keith. So after the event, Keith put in a 2-page type protest, and it was very humorous. And I'll give it to the club. Jan Ellis sent it to me the other day.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she said, Jan got heaps of stuff, she said. She'd like Keith to be remembered here, and he certainly will be. One log trial, speaking of the investigator, on a Saturday we went from Patterson Lakes to Swan Bay via the Symonds Channel. And if you know the Symonds Channel, we had 60 boats in the event, 60 boats.
Very narrow.
2 keel boats. Mine wasn't, sorry, not mine, Bruce Coram was probably there, I can't recall exactly. Seabird was, for sure, David Strong, and probably with Phil, I don't know, can't recall. But Symonds Channel, the water's there if the tide's right and the weather's right, and Keith Ellis took us down there, 60 boats. We all ended up safely at Swan Bay. As long as you follow the leader, you'll get there, if the leader's got it right. There's mischievous Keith in action.
Again.
Yeah, we could have gone to the South Channel.
Again. Well, Mike, that's fantastic. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Jeff.
I don't know how the club would exist without members like yourself who are constantly contributing all the time and still
Thanks,
up
Jeff.
till today.
Thanks
so
very
well
much.
done.
Good on you.
Thank you.
Ta.